Okay, so good evening. We will continue on the discussion of our government accounting. No? So last time we have discussed the chapter 1. No? Chapter 1 is the general provisions and the basic standards and policies. So siguro just to wrap up, no, chapter 1, it focused on who or from the Constitution, who keeps the accounts of the government agency. So based on our Constitution, it is the Commission on Audit, no, who keeps the accounts and who promulgates accounting rules and regulations and submit to the President and Congress. Okay, so by the way, when we say government accounting, it's also just the same as private accounting, wherein it is the process of analyzing, recording, classifying, summarizing, and communicating the transactions involving, of course, the receipt and disposition of government funds and property, and interpreting the results thereof. Okay? So based on PD 1445, it sets that the objective of government accounting is to produce information concerning past operations and present conditions, to provide a basis for guidance for future operations, to provide controls of the acts of public bodies and offices in the receipts and dispositions and utilizations of funds and properties, to report the financial position and the results of operations of the government agencies and guidance of all persons concerned. So in short, no, when we say government accounting, titingnan mo lang how does the government spend their money and how do they dispose the money they collected. Okay, so again, it's the Commission of Audit, no, ang number one agency who promulgate accounting rules and regulations. But of course, there are other agencies involved such as DBM, Bureau of Treasury, who helps the Commission on Audit in handling the finances of the government. Okay? So, basically, ano ba yung mga consideration natin or the basic accounting and budgeting reporting principles? Number 1, we also follow the general accepted accounting principles or yung tinatawag natin IAS. So, meron tayong tinatawag na PPSAS, no? Pag sinabi natin PPSAS, it's the Philippine Public Sector Accounting Standards which were based on IPSAS, the International Public Sector Accounting Standards. We also use the accrual basis of accounting, wherein when we say accrual basis of accounting, all expenses are recorded regardless when paid and all revenues are also recognized regardless when received. Also, ito yung maiiba, no, sa private accounting, we have the budget presentation, no, for the budget basis for presentation of budget information in the financial statements. We also use the revised chart of accounts or common chart of accounts kasi kapag sa private, iba-iba, depende sa needs ng company yung gagamitin mo. Siyempre, pag service ka, you have a different account as to merchandising and as to manufacturing. But for the government, may isa lang tayong revised accounts which will be discussed on chapter 3. Also, like in private accounting, we also use the double entry bookkeeping. When we say double entry bookkeeping, there is a debit and a credit. It contains debit and credits journalized in a bilateral form, which we call the double entry system. No, it requires debit and credit, so it will be balanced. And of course, at the end of the process, after we analyze, we record and summarize, we are going to prepare the financial statements, which we are going to communicate the results. And lastly is the fund cluster accounting. When we say fund cluster accounting, fund cluster, kina-cluster natin based on funds. If it is general fund, if it is trust fund, if it is revolving fund. So, depende sa funds. And we make statements out of it. Okay, so that's all about chapter 1. Now, I think we are ready on our chapter 2. So, on your book, no, the Unified Account Code Structure, meron din naman ito, but I downloaded the DBM or the Joint Circular, no? Joint Circular yan ng DBM, Commission on Audit, Department of Finance, and the Bureau of Treasury, number 2013-1, dated August 6, 2013. So, ano nga ba itong Unified Accounts Code Structure? So, actually, this was developed, no, to provide a harmonized budgetary and accounting code classification that will facilitate the efficient and accurate financial reporting of actual revenue collections and expenditures compared with the program revenues and expenditures. Okay, so meron ako dito. So actually, if you're going to read this, I have uploaded this on your classroom. So we have here, as you can see, ito po yung composition ng UACS or UACS, no? Unified Account Code Structure. First is the funding source. Actually, this is 8 digits. Started with the fund cluster, no? Kung anong fund cluster siya. Then, it followed by the funding source, which is financing source, authorization, fund category. Then, next is what kind of organization? Is it a department under the president? Is it an agency, a national agency such as NBI or LTO or COA or DepEd? We also have the department or the lower level operating units, which are the LGU. Then the next 9 digits will be the location and of course the NFO or the major final output or program activity and project. Sa amin ang tawag namin dito ay PPAs, no? So, same lang din naman, no? Sa National Agency, tawag pala nila IPA. Okay, and also the object code, ito na yung ginagamit ng COA. Object code as to what type of object is it? Is it an asset, a liability, or an equity? Okay. So again, no, let's define or let's read again the purpose. Okay, so when we say purpose, no, the objective of the government-wide unified accounts code structure is to establish the accounts and codes needed in reporting the financial transaction in the national government of the Republic of the Philippines. So again, as I have discussed and as I have said yung kanina, di ba, ginagamit natin ito for identifying, aggregating, and reporting financial transactions in budget, preparation, execution, and accounting. So ito siya. Yung funding source, that's the budget preparation. Organization and location, that's execution na. No? Then accounting and auditing sa object code. Okay? So okay, now let's start with the key elements. Now, actually, ito na yung key elements. We have 5 key elements. The funding source, the organization code, location code, the major final output or POPs code, and the object code. So, isa-isahin natin. For chapter 1, which is the funding source code, so when we say funding source code, so saan nang galing, no? What kind of funds siya, no? So actually, it's 8 digits sa libro nyo. 8 digits kasi it includes the fund cluster code. So when we say fund cluster source, fund cluster, we have 7 fund cluster. Is it a regular agency fund? Is it a foreign assisted project fund? Is it a special account funds? Is it Special accounts, foreign assisted. Is it internally generated funds, business-related funds, or trust funds? So yan yung tinatawag natin na fund cluster. Anong klaseng funds ba siya? From the word itself, it describes, no? Siguro a little later when we move on the next chapter like 4 and 5, mas maiintindihan mo na siya. So for now, it's just for you to define it, it's fine. So next is the financing source. So financing source, actually we have 3 financing source. Financing source, it is a general fund, one, of budgetary funds or custodial funds. So when we say it's a general funds, these are funds available for any purpose that Congress may choose to apply and is composed of all receipts or revenues that do not otherwise accrue to other funds. So ibig sabihin yan yung mga pwede mong gamitin generally. Generally, it's for the personal services, it's for the MOOE, it was given to other, kung ano yung kailangan, no, ng Philippines. Kaya lang, meron kasing mga funds na hindi siya general. Let's say may specific purpose, may trust siya. Okay? So, yung iba maiintindihan natin later. Now, when we say also general funds pala, no, normally yan yung nasa GAA. Ano yung GAA? So, siguro a little later, yung pagdating sa authorization code, makikita mo na yung GAA. Okay, off-budgetary funds refers to receipts for expenditure items that are not part of the National Expenditure Program, which are authorized for depositing in government financial institutions. So when we say off-budgetary funds, ito yung mga retained earnings or revolving funds. Retained earnings, halimbawa yung LTO or yung land bank, di ba they earned something? Parang ganyan din yung revolving. They earn, retained earnings is yan yung, let's say, LTO, they collect fees and then they use it for operation. Of course, subject to accounting and auditing. Pag sinabi naman natin revolving funds, okay, let's say DTI, I'll give you this 1 billion. Di ba? Ganun naman yan when we sa TV napapanood natin, di ba? Okay, the DTI has allotted, let's say, 10 billion worth of projects to engage loans for MSMEs para magkaroon pa ng other business, di ba? So yun yung revolving funds na they earn from it. So yun yung pwede nilang gamitin. Of course, hindi na yun kukunin ng national government whatever the income from it. Inire-revolve na lang nila yon for them to cater more loans for other customers or for other businesses. Pero of course, again, subject to regular auditing, no? Yung the regular auditing and accounting standards tayo. Next is the custodial funds. So pag sinabi lang naman natin custodial funds, this refers to the receipts or cash received by any government agency, whether private or any government agencies to fulfill a specific purpose. Example niyan, yung mga trust receipts. Let's say I will be giving you, let's say Red Cross, nagbigay sa atin ng 1 billion to be used for test kits for COVID. So that's it. Doon mo lang siya gagamitin. So when we say custodial, from the word custody, you are just holding your custody out of it. Pero gagamitin mo siya for a specific purpose and not for what you ever wanted. Okay, so that's it. So we have the general, the of budgetary, and custodial. Next is the authorization code. So when we say authorization codes, so we have how many authorization codes? We have 8. So first is the new general appropriation. So when we say new general appropriations, yan yung current year budget actually. These are the annual authorizations for incurring obligations during a specified budget year as listed in the General Appropriations Act. So when we say General Appropriations Act, every year po yan, every October, ini-start yan sa Congress, di ba? Dinidinig nila yan, no? Actually, may map yan eh. Hindi ko kabisado yung year, no? Sa amin kasi, it should be submit to the Sangguniang Bayan for review before the approval of the mayor. For the national, we have the Congress, then the Senate, then the approval of the President. Yan yung gagamitin mo for next year. For instance, yung GAA natin for 2022 GAA, di ba? So it was approved ng legislative body yon. No, the GAA is the legislative authorization. So that was approved by the legislative, no? Nagagamitin mo for your personal benefits, MOOE, financial expenses, and capital outlays for the implementations of programs, projects, and activities of all departments, bureaus, and offices of the government for a given year. For example, this year, we have the 2022 GAA. Now, yan yung new. So, meron din susunod na taon, 2023 GAA, 2024. Ngayon, ma'am, paano po yung mga natitira dyan? So, yun yung mga continuing appropriations. Kasi may mga appropriations, let's say, noong 2021 na hindi naubos, gagamitin mo pa yon this year, then that's continuing appropriations. But take note, class, na hindi lahat ng mga classification ng expenses as to PS, MOOE, financial expenses, and capital outlay, ay magagamit mo. Actually, continuing up started in 2013, yung mga PS, MOOE, at capital outlay is valid only for 1 year. Pero yung mga special, meron kasing mga special funds na pwedeng gamitin or magamit mo pa for next year. Sa LGU, meron din ganon, no? Na pwede mo siyang, yun yung continuing appropriations. Yun yung mga hindi natin naubos last year na pwede mo pang gamitin this year. Okay? Next, also we have the supplemental appropriations. So when we say supplemental appropriations, for an instance, like what happened during COVID or pandemic time, di ba yung health budget natin is kulang na for quarantine facilities, for medicines, for health workers, etc. Dahil hindi natin na-control. But meron tayong tinatawag na authority ang legislative, no, to make a supplemental appropriations. So meaning yung ibang budget, for instance, may mga budget tayo for the repairs of rooms, may budget tayo for ecotourism, etc. Eh di ba freeze naman lahat yun noon during that time. Bawal gumala, bawal ang ganito. So hindi natin siya ginamit, but instead, we try to supplement other, no, isusupplement natin for health purposes para mapunan. Kasi when we say supplemental, these are additional appropriations enacted by Congress to augment the original appropriations, to augment kasi kulang na, that have proven insufficient for their intended purpose because of economic, political, or social conditions. Supplemental appropriations must also be supported by a certification of availability of funds by the Bureau of Treasury. So that's it, no? Yan yung supplemental appropriations. When we say automatic appropriations, actually this automatic appropriations included din naman ito sa GAA, kaya lang parang nakahiwalay siya as automatic. So when we say automatic, di mo ito pwedeng supplemental. Kasi these are automatic appropriations, meaning to say, automatic siya na hindi na kailangan ng Congress actually na i-approve to. Kasi let's say ito yung pambayad mo sa GSIS, ito yung pambayad mo sa loans, no? So automatic nandun na siya, hindi pwede siyang galawin ng Congress. Okay, these are retirement and life insurance, retirement benefits ng mga empleyado. Hindi mo siya pwedeng bawasan, wag na muna kayong mag-retire, wag na muna kayong mag-ganito. Hindi mo siya. Yan yung automatic appropriations. Okay? Ayan, yung examples of automatic appropriations, retirement and life insurance, pensions, domestic grants, proceeds, custom duties and taxes, yung proceeds from sales, military camp sales proceeds, tax refunds, debt principal amortization, debt interest payments, internal revenue allotment, or ang tawag natin ngayon is the national tax allocation. So meaning to say, yung ibinibigay sa LGU na fund, di rin pwedeng galawin ng Congress yun. Those are automatic appropriations. Next is unprogrammed funds. So yung mga unprogrammed funds, these are in standby appropriations for priority projects of the government. Kasi syempre, iba-iba yan. Let's say President Duterte has a priority projects. So there is an allotted unprogrammed funds for him. Normally, it came from the revenue collections exceeds the targets. Halimbawa, ang revenue collections is 1 billion, nakakollect ka ng 1.2, the excess will be unprogrammed. Wala yun sa program eh. So, pwede siyang gamitan ng government or ng president for whatever he wants to be. For instance, sa mayor, ganun din, pag excess, may excess collections. Foreign loans, new revenues, no? Na basta hindi siya kasama. Kasi class, pag nag-budget tayo, equal lagi yung balance. revenues will equal to expense. Sobra ngayon. So, anong gagawin mo doon? Yun yung mga unprogram funds, di ba, na pwede mong gamitin. Next, we have the retained income funds. So, when we say retained income funds, these are collections that are authorized by law to be used directly by agencies for their operations or specific purpose. Okay, for an instance, ayan, SUCs, no? May mga tuition fees, may miscellaneous fees, DOH, may hospital fees, dental fees, LTO, di ba? May mga fees yan. So, when we say fees, yan yung mga, ina-allowed naman, of course, na yan yung mga minimal fees na kinokollect ng mga government agencies to support their operations, no? To support their specific purpose. Pero normally kasi yan, may budget din sila from the national as to salaries ng mga doctors, salaries ng mga teachers. Kaya lang, yung mga other income na yan, it was of course reported, no? And audited by the Commission on Audit. So, hindi tayo matatakot na ibubulsin nila yan or whatever. Pero may purpose yan. Normally for their operation. So, yan yung retained income funds. And next is the revolving funds. So, ito yung revolving funds. These are receipts derived from business type activities of department or agencies as authorized by law and which are deposited in an authorized government depository bank. This fund shall be self-liquidating. All obligation and expenditures incurred of this business type activity shall be charged against the revolving fund. Parang yung DTI na sinasabi ko kanina, the national government will be giving them the revolving fund for loans to MSMEs, so gagamitin nila yan. And then whatever expenses na gagastusin doon, let's say kung ano yung mga kailangan nilang gastusin for that, processing fee, etc., yun doon nila sa charge yun. Hindi naman na yung babawiin ng national government, no? And of course, subject to accounting and auditing din yan, no? Next are trust receipts. These are receipts that are officially in the possession of government agency or a public officer or trustee, agent, or administrator, or which have been received for the fulfillment of a particular obligations. For an instance, naka-receive ang national government ng donations from any other government agencies din, pwedeng abroad, pwedeng, yun, halimbawa, Australian government donated, let's say, 100 billion of cash for a purpose of Yolanda victims. So, yan yung mga yan eh. And these are subject to accounting and auditing pa rin. Okay? So, next, we have the fund category code, no? After the authorization code, still under the financing or funding source. So sa fund category, so we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Okay. First is the specific budgets of the national government agencies. Okay. This refers to the budgets appropriated for a specific department or agency of the national government. So, yan yung mga category. Halimbawa, yung inalat mo for DepEd, inalat mo for DOH, those are specific funds. Di ba? And also the multilateral or bilateral assistance, no? This fund category for counterpart funds, loan proceeds, grant proceeds will be selected according in the name of institutions. So, pag sinabi nating multilateral, ito yung mga alimbawa, mayroong mga loan proceed, may counterparts tayo doon. Alimbawa, ano bang gagawin? Magtatayo tayo ng isang malaking project, let's say subway station, etc. Di ba may mga counterpart yan? Minsan private entities. May counterpart din kasi ang government doon kasi that's for improvement. O let's say 10% from the government, 90% from the private entity. So that's it. Those are counterpart funds, no? Next, allocation to LGUs. Yan yung sinasabi kong NTA din kanina. Budgetary support to government corporations. So, yan yung mga GOCCs natin. GOCCs such as SSS. Diba? Land Bank, GOCCs yan. Financial assistance to MMDA. So, that's another fund. Special accounts in the general fund. So, when we say special funds, these are funds where proceeds for specific revenue measures and grants earmarked by law for priority projects are recorded. We also have special purpose funds. These are lump sum funds included in the GAA, which are not within the appropriations of department agencies or LGU, and which are available to allocate to them for specific purpose. Okay, so may special purpose funds. We also have unprogrammed funds, retained income funds, revolving funds, and trust receipts. Actually, I have discussed it earlier na. Okay, so just an example ng funding code, funding source code. Halimbawa, it's a general fund and it's 1-01 kasi from GAA, and it is specific budgets of national agency, then that's 101. Okay? Pension and gratuity fund, that's special purpose funds, diba? So, yan yung mga automatic appropriations, retirement, blah, blah, blah. So, that's 1. So, yan, may mga code na sila. -01, then 407. Okay? Then, next, Chapter 2. Under Chapter 2, yung iba dito, hindi ko na masyadong iyan. Yung Chapter 2 naman, organization. So, ang government class, no, ang Republic of the Philippines, this was comprised of 3 departments or three branches, no, the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. So, under the executive, may mga iba-ibang departments yan. Under the judiciary and legislative, diba? Those are may mga agencies yan, di ba? So, and then of course, we have the province and cities and barangays or municipalities. Those are the lower level units. Okay, let's start with the departments. The primary subdivisions of the executive branch responsible for overall management of a sector or a permanent national concern with nationwide or international impact. Primary subdivision of the executive branch responsible for overall management of a sector or permanent national concern with nationwide or international. Okay, sige. Puntahan na natin yung mga different departments. Ayan. These are the different departments. Congress of the Philippines, Office of the President, Office of the Vice President. We have the Department of Agrarian Reform, the Department of Agriculture, the DBM, the DepEd, State Universities, Department of Energy, DNRDOF, DFA, DOH, DLG, DOJ. So that's the judiciary. No, nandiyan na pala siya. DI, DOLE, National Defense, DPWH, DOST. So lahat ng marinig mong may department, those are departments. DSWD, DOT, DTI. DOTC, we have NEDA. PCOO, other executive offices, ARMN, Joint Legislative Executive Councils, the Judiciary, Civil Service Commission, COA, COMELEC, Office of the Ombudsman, Commission on Human Rights, Budgetary Support to Government Corporation, and MMDA. So, ayan, nandiyan ang Judiciary, no, tsaka Department of ano. Nandiyan din ang Congress sa taas. Okay. So, sa agency code. Okay. Agency code refers to any of the various units of the government, including an office, instrumentality, or government-owned and controlled corporation. No? So, ito yung mga agencies. So, actually, sabi niya dito, madami ito eh, no? For purposes of UACS, an agency code is an entity under a department whose budget is directly released to the latter. So, for marami kasi ito eh, no? So, sinabi niya na lang dito, no? The complete list of the government agencies and its codes is composed of no less than 65 pages. Actually, di ko pa yung nakita, no? So, example na lang, Field Development Council of the Philippines, Presidential Management Staff, etc. So, madami pala yan. Next is the operating unit, no? Ano ba yung mga operating unit? The operating units are the central office. Parang yung Department of Education. May central office, may bureaus, may department, may regional offices. Then, the state universities and colleges campuses. So, yun yung lower level operating units. We have the provincial offices ng mga DAR at DNR, National Irrigation, Extension or Fields Office. So, ayan na. Revenue district regional offices, revenue district offices, etc. So, yan. So, hindi ko na kayo papakabisaduhin yan. Madami yan, no? It's for you to read. Okay? So, next, after the agency code or the operating unit code, we have the lower level units operating code. So, ano yung lower level? Unit, tingnan natin. As a general rule, the last 5 digits of the lower level operating unit code refer to the assigned code for the individual operating units without reference to region code. Okay, so example ito. Department of Education, 07. Agency niya, agency code is 002, National Book Development Board. Meron palang ganun, no? And then, lower level operating unit is 000. Okay, ganun din sa DTI. Meron palang ganun. Okay? So, that's it. And next, chapter 3. So, sa chapter 3, siguro hindi ko na rin ito iisa-isahin. When we say location code, it's just for us to know the location. Pag location, meron siyang mahati siya into region, into province, and also into municipalities, and then barangay. So, ayan siya. Okay, region. Yung una, as you can see here, ito region, yung 9, ito region. Then next is province, municipality, and then next is barangay. Okay, example, province of, anong region kaya? Hindi ko alam kung, ayan, region 9, province of Zamboanga del Sur, municipality of Cabasalan, and it's a barangay Balongis. Okay? So, kung hahanapin natin yung address natin, so tingnan nga natin. So, wala dito, hindi niya binigay. Sa book meron eh. Andali, hanapin ko lang dito kung nasaan yan. I do not know if it's nasa dulo. That's object code. Hindi ata niya. Ayan. Ito, ayan. So, we have here. Let's start here. Okay, now, region 3 is 03. Ang daling tandaan ng mga region, ano? Then, we have province code. Tingnan natin sa Zambales. 71. So, 03, 71. And then, we are wala na, hindi niya binigay, no? So, sa book, yung barangay, hindi na niya binigay. Wala din sa book, malamang nasa annex, no? So, for instance, we are 03. Tapos, ano na nga yung Zambales? 0371. And then, ang municipality, wala. No, hanggang province lang tayo. Kasi yung municipality code is 400 pages. So, tingnan na lang natin yun later, no? Then, of course, then the barangay. So, ganyan. So, we're done with the location code. Next will be the MFO or Major Final Output Code or Program Activities and Project Code. So, ito yan. Okay. So, first is the program. Then we have the MFO or the final output. Then the activity code. So, tingnan natin. So, main activity, sub-activity, and then last level. Okay, sa main activity, is it general and administration? Is it support to operations? It is operations, locally funded projects, foreign assisted projects, or purpose. Diba? So, yan. The next major final output. So, pag under major final output, ang mga subsector, nasa libro nyo yun, class. I do not know if it's here. Ito. This is project category, eh. So, meron ako dito sa book, yung subsectoral. If it is general public services, pwede siyang executive and legislative, foreign economic, general services, basic research, R&D. So, it's in your book. Pag under defense, military defense, civil defense. Okay, so, under public order and safety. So, madami yan, no? Now, next is, what kind of project? Is it general, support to operations, etc.? Now, what kind of project category? Is it physical infrastructure or non-physical? And then also, we have the project subcategory. Pag buildings siya, pag flood control, pag power, pag roads and bridges, water management, economic development, education, environment, health, governance, recreation, research and development, social protection. And of course, last is the project title. Okay? So example, Department of DBM, Office of the Secretary, General and Administration. That's one, no? General Management Supervision, Support to Operations. So, ayan yung mga samples. Sobrang dami ng code, no? So, ayan, just for you to know na it was categorized, no, based on what type of project. So, una, saan galing yung funds? Anong appropriations? Anong category? Then next, saan siya? Is it department, agency, or LGU? Then anong location? Then next, what kinds of project? Is it for health? It is for education, etc. Then lastly is the object code. So pagdating sa object code, yan na yung i-discuss natin for our chapter 3. Of course, sa object codes, nahahati lang yan into 5 elements. The assets, liabilities, equity, revenue, and expenses. Okay? So, I think that's the end of my discussion for our UX. Just to add this one, ito. Sa expenses, ito yung mga categories niya. Personal services, kapag kasweldo yan ng tao. Management and other, of course, and other benefits. Pag MOOE or maintenance and other operating, yun yung mga hindi mo maklasify as personal services, di mo rin siya maklasify as financial expenses, at di mo rin siya maklasify as capital outlays. So in short, yun yung mga other expenses. Kaya nga other, di ba? So yan yung for operations, let's say utilities. So yan yun, no? And then, we have financial expenses. Normally, those are payment for interest and amortizations. Direct costs, kapag manufacturing and trading. Normally, may manufacturing tayo sa paggawaan ng pera. Yan. No? Non-cash expenses, those are amortization and depreciations. Capital outlays, those are payment